Says live in the corner, but I don't think.
Yeah, so Lynn actually is the one who, because she's the, what do you call it, the host, I guess.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's recording, yeah. Yep, the meeting recording is. Okay, so we can start.
All right, so I will call this meeting to order at 6:01. And we'll just go around the room. I am the Shannon Knight Chair.
Vicki Olson, Vice Chair.
Aaron Goodell, Westland Planning Staff.
Luke Borland, Westland Public Works.
And on Zoom, or WebEx.
Oh, Janelle, I don't remember what I am.
Just a member.
Remember.
Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, Charlie Anderson, member.
All right. And, oh, and it looks like Mary just jumped on too.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Mary?
Hi, Mary, can you hear us?
Okay. And doesn't,
I don't think we can hear you if you were trying to say something.
still can't hear.
No, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Yeah.
All right.
Right.
And don't see any public on there, so we probably don't have any public comments. Approval of meeting notes. Does anyone want to?
There weren't any posted.
They're in here.
Okay, I don't see him. I can't approve.
Does anybody else that looked at them want a motion to approve them, or you want to take a minute to read them? You, Charlie?
I approve.
Okay, so
Motion to
Charlie can approve it, and I'll go to second. And then all in favor, just raise hands. All right, you just abstain.
Yeah, I didn't read them, sorry.
All right, one abstention.
Okay.
And then Public Works.
Yeah. So yeah, introduce myself again, Luke Borland, Westland Public Works, Community Relations Specialist. And so today I kind of wanted to talk about two projects that are going on and at different stages, what the outreach for those looks like, and kind of the strategies I use to help inform the community about what's going on. And one being the roundabout at 10th Street, and so kind of some of the data of engagement on that and what that looks like kind of on the backside. And so the first would be that 10th Street roundabout. And so while it was in design, this was going to neighborhood associations. So this is the Barrington Heights, well, first Willamette, Barrington Heights, and Savannah Oak Neighborhood Association meetings. Then there's also a project email list that provided about every other week updates on what's going on, what's coming up, what's been kind of completed, where it is. There's also I attended for this project mainly last summer, the summer market, had a booth there with the plans and with also QR codes to the project website on the city, which had updates. Also some informational door hangers for adjacent residents and businesses. And then frequent site visits. So I ran into folks on those. And I'll go into a little bit more detail of all of these strategies, but also some library and parks programming. So the library has early release programming, and so when kids are getting out of school early, they come down to the library, and I use that with one of our engineers. We made roads out of pudding and graham crackers and crushed up Oreos to explain kind of what a road looks like, but also had a handout for their parents about here's where we're building roads in the city, right? With links to these projects. Also presented to the Youth Advisory Council on the projects and kind of some of the features and some of the choices around those features. So yeah, getting more into the neighborhood association meetings. So I started with the city coming in on 2 years ago. And so this, the design had already been pretty well started. So when reaching out, it was, here are, and here's the design and any comments or feedback on that. But mostly getting folks ready for construction and what the impacts of construction are going to look like with that project. And providing, like I said, links to the website, we get the feedback that the website's hard to find and navigate, which it is. And it's, especially projects are kind of hard to get to. So the easiest, to get people kind of a link in chat during meetings or a QR code they can scan gets in there a lot quicker. And then the Willamette neighborhood specifically requested an email list. So that email list I was talking about came from that recommendation. The other.
So the 10th Street, is this the one that's already completed, or where is this?
So it's still ongoing. So the roundabout's there. They're still doing work to complete it this summer. There's some concrete that was cracked that we're going to have them repair.
Okay.
So that's why it's still technically ongoing. All the restoration hasn't been done.
Okay.
But we're closing out. We expect soon that project to be done. And so then the other kind of regular community meeting was with Historic Willamette, which does a lot of the programming, in the area of the project, and so keeping them abreast of kind of what's coming up, especially when they have a program coming up, if there's an event coming up, that the site is prepared, and that detours aren't impacting that. That's also working with the school district on keeping busing and kind of dismissals aware. So that was also kind of one of those site visits of got some feedback that when there was a detour, just traffic on especially 5th was rough. And so I would just go down and be present during dismissals and kind of helping calm traffic, not directing traffic or anything, but I think having that presence is something I got positive feedback for. So yeah, to the email list, had a little over 100 folks signed up and receiving those emails regularly. The open rate is about 85%, which for marketing is, it's, the average for governmental informational emails is 28%. And there were no unsubscriptions from the email list. So I think in balancing, getting quality information out there that's not flooding people with things that they don't want to read. So I think some positive feedback. The markets also, close to 400 people stopped by to discuss that project in the 5 nights I was there summer. Also, had plans, had connections to these other resources. And then the door hangers. So over 1,000 door hangers went out as of December, and this is for night closures and night work, road closures. So a lot of repeats just because of proximity, but businesses also received larger size printouts of detour maps, especially when detouring for the closure. And Historic Willamette received some big print flyers for their signboards to put out as well. And so next I'll kind of switch over to the Safe Routes to School outreach and engagement. And so this is with Cedar Oak. And this is part of the 2018 GO bond. And so I think this is one of the major struggles with this communication is how long these projects are out in kind of the ether, and then when they materialize, right? And so, in 2019, staff was meeting with the neighborhood association. They went to the traffic advisory board, and paused, because of COVID, a couple of years. And then after I started, we door hung and had a walk with adjacent property owners as to kind of here is the general thought. And so, a sidewalk on the north side of the road was spelled out in the geo bond, but just confirming that that's still what folks were interested in, in the community were interested in, being kind of different than our standard layout. Following that walk, we also presented that to the neighborhood association. And I was regularly at the neighborhood association meetings. So it's about 10 times I've been to talk about Safe Routes to School sidewalk. We also met with the PTA. We presented this to council, and had a second walk this February with neighbors, just to, as we had the 90% plans, and help folks understand how their property might be, I guess, the right of way adjacent to their property impacted, not so on private property. And so now, council has approved construction, and so we have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor tomorrow. And after that, from the walks, I've collected emails, so we'll email that list and the neighborhood association to let them know, expected start dates, that kind of thing. This would also, door hangers will go out with a link to the project page for updates on how to sign up for the email list. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing and how I've been approaching project outreach. These are two bigger projects, multi-million dollar in terms of around about $1 million project in terms of the sidewalk. And so there's also, 20 or so private developments going on at any one time where there's neighborhood contact and questions, concerns, that kind of thing.
What determines that you're going to have outreach on a project?
So with all city initiated projects, we're doing, so I'm doing outreach. It's harder, on the private side, we just don't know their schedule.
Oh, yeah, I don't expect that, but I mean, just because we've had, I know there's no leadership, but in the past, we've had issues where Public Works didn't feel it was necessary to update the public on anything because their streets and stuff that was already approved in the TSP or anything like that. So they didn't feel they needed to do any public outreach. So just wanted to know if there was some kind of trigger that says this is a big enough project that we should get feedback. Because I know you don't have.
Yeah, and so that's kind of my regular attendance at the neighborhood association. It's just there to say, here's something we're working on, even if, so with the Cedar Oak sidewalk, sometimes it was, I was there to talk about another project, but also, hey, we just got the the 50% plans of this back, and then would show up the next month with those plans to present if they, were interested in that. In terms of trigger, it's just trying to kind of do everything. So there's not one, here is what perfectly triggers outreach. It's just letting folks know what's going on, and adjusting as need be.
Any questions from the WebEx people? Oh, go ahead, Will.
Yes. As someone who's on that mailing list, thank you for that. I did not necessarily know about that the work was still going on. So it might be nice to update us on send the email list an update on that. And then my last question would be at 5th Avenue and 10th Street, there's no longer a left-hand turn allowed. Is there some way that we can let people know that before getting all the way down there, that you can't turn left? I say this as someone who lives in that area, and I see a lot of people go down there and then try and attempt that turn because they've been sent that way.
Fifth Avenue.
Right there at McMiniman's and the Arco station.
Oh, 8.
Yeah, 8, that's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where, I don't even know where I live anymore. Yeah, 8th Avenue and 10.
Yeah, so there, where, as it sits, the signage is appropriate. We're going to increase the signage, just because people don't see that sign. Eventually, there'll be a second roundabout in ODOT's right away, which would really help with that issue, because right now it's hard to break habits, and it has been historically, left turns weren't allowed at like rush hour times. That wasn't always enforced, but now that island's there, it's becoming harder. So that's another
People
thing.
still do it.
People still do it.
Can you paint on the sidewalk, like no left? Because I don't think people see that.
Yeah, and so that's what then I put some signs. And you have to talk to PD about enforcement as well. And that's another consideration we have in doing kind of future detours, is we don't want people to do the left we don't want them to do. And so, taking that into consideration as we're doing repairs as well, as to not make detours that build that habit.
And I don't think people understand too that they can do like a U-turn through a roundabout. So
Mhm.
they just go. And
Yeah.
Little circle.
so if it like had a sign that
So, yeah.
said something, I don't know how, I'm sure there's a sign.
Over time, people might understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else have questions over there?
And in regard to the email for the 10th Street project, so they have received the punch list but haven't started the work on the punch list, and so that's why it's kind of gone dormant for a while. We're meeting with Icon tomorrow to kind of expect them to restart their work, finishing out that project.
So are they making adjustments to the curve that's been hit? I drive a
Mhm.
truck and then
So,
like,
yeah, so there are some cracked curbs that they're repairing.
no way to make them.
Yeah, well, and so they're lower, so there was some damage. There was an oversized load that ODOT sent through the roundabout when it first opened. So that cracked some curbs. And so we're going to make some adjustments to those curbs and make repairs to that. And as well as there's a catch basin that is sticking out too far and causing people are hitting it. And the concrete's breaking up there. So that's all work that's covered by the warranty requirement.
I also thought there was gonna be some trees on.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's,
In the middle.
Um,
You have trees on this.
well, on Willamette Falls Drive, there's trees, but there's also some on the original drawings that I saw years ago. But I know it's not trees. So I was just wondering, I didn't see any trees.
not on 10.
What about the dollar or the school on school roundabout?
Yeah, so that one has also been a little difficult in terms of communication because the contractor is working for the school. And so communications goes through the school district mainly. They are, again, nearing what they say when they say they expect to be done. It's, they've recently are, they're right at the point where, with the soil nail wall, that they'll be putting kind of the aesthetic concrete on it, the shotcrete on it. So they're getting close with a lot of that work. And yeah, it's they still have a decent amount to do. But
Is the school doing all of the work in the park too, the retaining walls and everything?
so that's the schools.
So there's no timeline on when it's gonna be done.
Last I heard was at end of July. So
Anything else in the pipeline that you're working on that?
yeah, so also in the Robinwood neighborhood is the Calaroga pump station. So it's a sewage pump station. You wouldn't notice if you drove down, but it's about, so it looks like a manhole above ground, but it's actually a 40-foot deep tank that pumps sewage to where it can get to the gravity system. It's currently in the floodplain, and so we're going to raise it up out of the floodplain and also move it next to the road, so it's easier to access and maintain. So it's a pretty involved, a lot of drilling, and there's also a creek adjacent to it, going to the river. So it'll be pretty involved and intense, but I've been working with the neighbors and letting them know that's coming up. So that was also approved by council on the 17th. We're going to set up a meeting with the contractor to get started on that. And so that'll have road closures. There's with Calaroga a way out either direction, so just through traffic there. So that's a large project, but really a necessary project because it's been breaking down a lot. Once for all sewage in the river, so trying to avoid that. Other than that, we're starting plans, starting the design for some water line replacement. That's the design process will take us into the fall, winter, and so that should be minimally invasive. It's all under the road when they start working on that, so it's not onto any property. It's not changing in cross sections of roads or anything. It'd be just replacing lines parallel to existing water mains.
Great.
I mean, maybe some feedback I may be interested from this group in. So I actually had a discussion today with some neighbors who kind of felt that door hangers were insufficient, that they would prefer mailings to them. Is that?
It's cost.
Okay. I don't think there's a good way to please everyone.
Yeah.
Because I would say I look at my mail once a month when I gotta pay bills, and so I would not open the mail. So I would see, well, I wouldn't really see door knocking, it's like in the back door. But I think my packages right out there, so I would eventually go outside. Get some packages.
Because it's a budget.
Budget and
Sounds to what, 70 cents? 70, they're expensive now. Almost $1 to send. Sure.
I just think there's probably no pleasing it.
I think door hangers are.
I think door hangers,
yeah,
I mean,
and that's
hard to
been-
miss a door.
yeah.
Or
And we
do you
tried.
Do you do little posters, maybe like the grocery stores do?
So that's with Main Street or with different groups. It's harder to go into a lot. Private businesses will drop them off when there's detours, but in terms of just the objects, not necessarily. Yeah, I think the other feedback we often hear is kind of the notification range. So we follow 500 feet from the project, and then personally I just complete block anytime I'm on a block. So I don't get, well, my neighbor got one, why didn't I? And that seems to work pretty well. Every so often we'll get feedback from someone the next street over that they didn't hear. But in just, I think like you said, in terms of resources, yeah, it's me out there, their door hanging. And there's, you know, a lot of projects going on. So that's kind of what we're doing.
I mean, I would agree that, I could see both sides of it. I would agree that 500 feet does seem, we always hear that too, that 500 feet's not enough for everything.
Mhm.
Planning projects and all that other stuff, but I also see because I mean, I was president of Main Street when we did the streetscape. So I literally walked to the street and gave a flyer to every single business like 3 times. And they still said they didn't know anything. So I don't know. I'm like, I can't help you. Because I know I went to every single business personally. So I get that. But that's why we have multiple channels that get the word out. That is more important so that if we're right outside of 100 feet, you hopefully get it some other way, email or, you know, some other. Everything goes in the city newsletter as a way to, then people have some responsibility to actually look at stuff. And everything. To that end, I mean, one of the things that we've talked about working on is that Hillsborough has this really extensive kind of document that tells the city basically the process it has to go through for every, so that's why I was kind of asking like how big of a project, because that's, I think what the next thing this group is going to work on is trying to model like that Hillsborough thing that says, this is the kind of stuff, this is the communication, this is what every single project has to go through. And I think it's probably, I don't know how Hillsborough decides big of a project is or you know, what entails it. We'll probably go through that as we look through their documents. I do know that when we were looking at the consultants for the waterfront project or learning about who they were picking and stuff like that, we looked at, they did the waterfront project in Vancouver. And I went to their site and they had a really nice website, and I know that we have limitations with our website, although do you think we could build another site that links to another
So
site?
we actually have that and are with, so the 2 planning projects are on that, and then the Cedar Oak project and the Caleruga pump station will also be on it improved. Yeah.
Because
Right.
that had a way for you to submit a question about if someone saw simple things like my sidewalk was getting replaced in front of my house, my street or whatever. So they could ask that question and it became a permanent question on the website so that anybody became a project.
Okay.
So like the next person that wanted to go and see something, it was already answered there because someone else had asked about it and it had a whole, became a whole like sub-site basically.
Okay.
So
Frequently asked questions.
it was kind of like a frequent action, but it became a project. So they had all these projects with links to the questions, answers for each project, but it was something as small as like a sidewalk being replaced or whatever, because someone else had inquired about it, and so it became a project going there.
So yeah, we actually have 2 things coming up. So there is a like citizen requests, so they kind of fix a pothole or that we're planning to roll out in July. And then there is that project page, which just is more aesthetically pleasing, more easy to navigate. And so the planning projects are already on it, public works projects, you know, after we have some more information after these meetings tomorrow, we'll go on it. And that will be what it links, you know, what the public facing things link to. And that has, yeah, that question component to where folks can engage more, you know, with the current website. It's, I'll send an email to, you know, the project manager or me, whereas this will allow a little bit more engagement.
Okay. All right. Anybody else before we let you go? Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thanks.
All right. So moving on, we have CCI announcements. Does anybody have anything? Oh, and I should also add that Gary Waltney joined after we did introductions, so just so that's on the record that he clarified him. Do you have any public comments you needed to add? Since you missed that part.
No, no comments. Sorry, it just took WebEx forever to dial up, so sorry about that.
All right. So anybody have any announcements, anything they want to talk about in future meetings or anything like that? Staff have anything for us? Are you gonna be our new staff lead now?
Temporarily.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be attending the next few AGs for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Darren will still officially act as the liaison, but I'll be in attendance and here, so it's the liaison, but
Damn break.
give him a break and introduce me to this process and committee. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you have any other announcements?
I don't have any announcements. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do think we want to at some point look at that Hillsborough plan again. And I know Darren said that we would have to get a grant for a consultant, or have to get money for a consultant. I would say grant. We have to get money for a consultant in order for them to create this whole thing for us. But I think if we can look at it in the next couple meetings and like write a letter to city council asking them for money, get a consultant to do it, that would be our next step. So something for future meetings.
Okay, could you kind of give me the quick Cliff Notes version of the Hillsborough discussion?
Yeah, so the Hillsborough, so Darren has the plans he brought to us at some point
Okay.
before, so
He presented it.
yeah, he
to us.
presented it to
Okay.
us, so he'll have all that stuff. But as I was mentioning, it's basically a framework for all projects in the city, planning, public works, parks, all that kind of stuff, and it outlines the community engagement for each kind of level of plan and what that each plan has to go through, basically.
Okay.
And it talks about, we only got really in the beginning of it, but the beginning of it talks about, how much about making sure that there's tribal input, minority input, youth input, all these kind of things. So,
Different government agencies being notified
or just making sure
Local.
that those people, the local, but making sure people in the community are involved in the process. And so it's just a framework that makes sure that all the projects in the city have some kind of community engagement. So,
Okay.
so that's what we would like to see, to make sure we're engaging the community, and especially that we're getting, the voices of the minorities. So, so like I said, it would require a consultant, so we need to write a letter. But I think if we understand and have, a couple meetings to look over the plan so we can see which parts we think are the most important. So when we write a letter to council, we can say, these are the things that I think it will do.
Okay. So would we want to bring the plan back maybe
Yeah.
next meeting?
Yeah.
Have a discussion about it?
Yes.
See what happens after discussion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we have a copy of that?
Yeah, Darren linked it in several emails he sent to us, but I think it's also, we looked at it during one meeting, maybe
So just look at.
a year ago. Yeah, old meetings.
I can, I'll get a hold of the plan and then
Yeah, you can send it out.
send it out to this
So we can
committee.
take a look. Okay.
Absolutely. And, if all goes well, we'll have it agendized here for next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mary, do you have anything that we need to know about council
No.
working
I don't think so. I don't,
on?
nothing
We
comes
talked
to
earlier,
mind.
I think before you were here, that the survey for the parks kind of is very split. Not giving you
Yeah.
a clear answer.
Right. Yep. The community rec center, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. So far.
All right. So I think that's it. Unless nobody has anything else, we will.
I was just gonna ask
Oh,
quickly,
yeah.
you say it's split, is it like strongly opposed and strongly in favor? Or is it split like
It's like
people are
literally
median?
like 50-50.
Interesting.
Pretty close to 50-50 opposed and for.
Okay,
I mean, it's
interesting.
more if you're in certain, you know, if you've got kids, it's higher for.
Yeah,
But if you, I think in general, I think it was fairly close. I mean, I think there's a 6% or something.
wow.
Like, you know, but yeah.
Hmm.
Just from what I would listen to at the council meeting and what they posted online.
Okay, I'll have to go look. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it got posted to the community page, the link to
Okay,
the survey. And I
Okay.
think there's still, I don't know, Mary, still a couple more days for the public survey too. They did a second survey.
I think your audio's.
Second survey hasn't closed yet. That's right.
So yeah, so there's another survey if you want to take it. Everybody.
I did do one, so the second one came out around the same time
Second one
Okay.
came out, I think, just like
recently.
Yeah,
but
it's
the
kind of
first
a
one was
follow up sort
Yeah.
of,
okay,
and some more in-depth questions.
okay,
It's actually called a questionnaire. So the first one was a survey, and then this is a questionnaire.
I think I didn't take the first one, but I did do the second. Anyway,
yeah.
It's multiple choice, so it's not too difficult.
No, it's not.
But there was a lively discussion on on a couple of the Facebook pages in regards to it as well.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yes, I think the vote is out whether or not to put it on the ballot in November or wait until May. There's
And
some,
I think you're deciding that next meeting or something?
I'm not sure if it's on the agenda at the next meeting. We do need to decide. I mean, if it's going to be on the ballot in November, we need to get that decision made. So I think we're just afraid to put it on the ballot and have it go down.
So is it the difference between people supporting the idea but not wanting to pay the cost?
Basically, I
Okay.
mean, that might be, that isn't the only hesitation. I think a lot of people just generally don't think there's a need for it. That's
Okay.
some people's opinion.
The discussions I saw on Facebook were basically money.
Yes, that is the main hesitation.
And like for me, it was money was okay to build, but not money to maintain, because I thought it would come a lot closer to breaking even to maintain. And you've got to do a levy on top of the bill just to maintain.
Right.
That makes it a lot harder of a sell, I think.
Does.
Because I'm like, what happens after the 5 years? What if they vote down the next levy? Does it just become an empty building? Like, what happens?
We'd have to find the money somewhere, I think, is really what would happen. And I'm not against doing some creative, private funding. I mean, there's certainly some wealth in this community. So, I mean, I don't know, but maybe people don't have the interest to donate money to a facility. I don't know.
Well, I think maybe there's public partnerships for the maintaining it, like, you know, I mean, we had a YMCA where I grew up, and that was built with city funding, but the YMCA ran it. So I think there's opportunity.
Yeah, I heard, I'll need to get more information about this, but I heard something about the Y not working out in, Sherwood. So that would be a good case study, probably. Anyway.
All right, so, okay, we will adjourn at 6:41. Thank you all.
Good night.
Happy 4th.
Thanks.
Too.
Next time.
Come out to the old time fair, because I'm water skiing in the show.
Oh, is that this week? What is it?
It's before the next meeting. That's 13th and 14th.
July, okay. We went down much last time. So I have a question. So down Old Town, parking is becoming interesting. Almost